Welcome back to the Taking the Lead Media podcast, broadcasting from the lovely island of Oahu. My name is Onofre, and welcome to the first episode of 2020. This is episode 143. Thank you for tuning in. The track you just heard is new music from Chicago-based punk quartet, Much the Same, and it's been quite a bit since their last record, Survive, released back in 2006 on Nitro Records. And I gotta say, 2006 was a good year of releases from Nitro. You had No Trigger's Canyoneer, Crime and Stereo's Troubled Stateside, also Hit the Switch with Social Justice and Domestic Tranquility. And I got to see them play that year too, in small town La Grande, Oregon, to a crowd of maybe, I want to say like 10 people. It could have been more, but small town. It was a good show though. I got pics. So the new album from Much the Same is titled Everything is Fine, and it was a split release through several labels, but I picked mine up through Lockjaw, based in the UK. I played tunes from that label in past episodes. Lots of good bands on that label, primarily punk and punk hardcore type bands, always good stuff. And if you're into wax, they have some really cool color variants on vinyl for Everything is Fine. It's kind of a blue cherry cola red type mix. It's really sweet looking. And also, this is actually the first album I picked up from Much the Same. Back in the early 2000s, I had the damnedest time looking for a copy of anything Much the Same. So it was just MySpace, streaming MySpace over and over. And I think they only had like one or two tracks from the Survive album. But I'm loving this album. It's very melodic. Harmonies are intact and a solid punk pop sound. Drums, guitars, bass, all of it. Very tight and catchy. And they do kind of mix it up a bit. There's a track called Man of Science, Man of Faith on there. Short 8-bit retro game kind of beat intro. And there's also a track called In the Event Of, which sounds like it's played on ukulele. And it's a break in between all the distortion, and it's kind of a bittersweet track among all the noise. But it's a dope album, 9 tracks, and definitely a favorite of 2019. Look for it on Bandcamp or through Lockjaw Records. Up next is a track from the band Saint Plaster, a 2-piece based in the Netherlands. Much thanks to Scott Sellers, who posted a picture of their album on Instagram. And you know Scott Sellers, right? Rufio, Mercy Street, big city fame, so Saint Plaster play amazing punk rock that shreds. It's fast, energetic, and catchy. Their album is self-titled, released through White Russian Records. It's a Dutch record label with a catalog of punk rock and hardcore releases, as well as other stuff too. But I haven't really explored their roster yet. But Saint Plaster is amazing. I'll have to check out the rest of their roster. But a little bit more about the band. Technically, they're a 2-piece, but there's 2 other dudes that fill out on bass and drum duties for live shows. And Saint Plaster is a side project, so this self-titled is likely to be their first and only release. And they'll be playing their final shows this year too. They have dates on their page, but they'll be playing at the other side of the world from where I'm at. So, sorry, I can't make it. But this album is a co-release between Right Russian Records and Bearded Punk Records, and both are out of vinyl. So I settled on a CD. And a shout out to Right Russian Records for sending me a second copy of the album after the first one was lost in the mail. Very kind of you, and thanks for not charging me a second time. Much appreciated. All right, so this is Saint Plaster. The song is Figurehead, coming off of their self-titled debut.
You talk, disregard, every single thing you said. You swing a gun around like you own this town, but you're nothing but a figurehead. You talk, disregard, every single thing you said. You swing that gun around like you own this town, but you're nothing but a figurehead. Another criminal in your
focus on today's episode is some of my favorite punk rock, punk pop releases of 2019, and there were a lot of them. Blink-182 released album 9, really enjoyed that. Scott Sellers released another new album, Being Strange, and he be releasing new tunes all the time, so keep releasing those amazing tracks. And there's also new albums by Brookhurst, Craig's Brother, Audio Karate too. A lot of great releases last year. So it's tricky to compile a top 25 records for 2019, which on my list personally consisted of a lot of hardcore, metalcore stuff too. But again, this episode though is just the punk rock stuff. Up next is a track from Ramona, the three-piece indie punk band originally from Seattle and now currently reside in Philly. Very catchy indie punk and pop. They have dual lead vocals, so lots of vocal harmonies, big choruses, and that raw energy. The album is titled Deals, 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 and this is the band's debut record, released through Red Scare Industries, with 10 tracks to showcase. And I like that they're on Red Scare. Ramona fits perfectly with that eclectic roster of punk rock bands on that label. It's great. The song I'll be playing is titled Is This Emo? The album is Deals, 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 and this is Ramona.
Your text was sickeningly sweet. You ask if I'm prepared to eat, and the whole time we're together, I'll let you watch me. Well, who'd you trick your eyes to see? Talk about it on my porch. The wine stained your teeth and your words. I can feel everything.
So that was the band Adrenalized from Spain. The song is titled My Three Companions. The album is Operation Exodus. This band shreds so hard. I mean, the musicianship is top notch, and all the individual players are excellent. But the highlights are definitely the solos and the abundance of that constant tech riffage. It's wonderful. And I love the album title, Operation Exodus. It's referencing a shuttle launch, if you look at the album cover, because the riffs are out of this world. Yo. And I love it. Great stuff. Again, the band is Adrenalized, and they be on Bandcamp. All right, so before I get to the last track of the show, some social media drops. Be sure to visit this podcast website, takingtheleadmedia.com. Check out the site for past episodes, links to respective bands on today's episode, and the occasional album review. Show notes are available too for links and timestamps. Do check out the podcast on iTunes if you haven't already, and hit that subscribe button too. If you got time to spare, please do leave a review and star rating for the show. Help the podcast climb the charts and suggest any improvements with the show. Hit me up on Twitter at TTLM Podcast. Love the interactions on there. Please send love, hate, comments, questions, music submissions, recommendations, and any other general correspondence to my email, takingtheleadmedia@gmail.com. All right, so closing the show is a track from Ninjas with Syringes, punk rock from the Northwest, Portland, Oregon to be exact. The new album, written and performed by the homie Matt Danger, is titled Punkanomics. And I love this album. I love the progression and maturity in Matt's songwriting. And I also like how it sounds a little bit of every Ninjas album before. Like tracks like Got Dead and Americant remind me of the aggressiveness of the Railroader EP. The closer, Epoch, has a piano on it, and I think of Pornographer. And the song Spectre sounds like it should have been on Oceanographer. Mentioning all this, there's an obvious commonality in Matt's writing, but there's also a lot of growth on this album, and that's the highlight of it all. This is the best Ninjas album right now. Oceanographer comes in a close second, though. I love that album, too. Right now, it's available through Spotify. Check it out there, and be sure to check out the bands on the homies label, No Pants Records, home to an eclectic list of bands from all over. The song I'll be playing is the album's opener, which is a really solid opener for an album. The song is titled Bones. The album is Punkanomics. The band is Ninjas with Syringes. My name is Nofri, and I'll be signing off until the next Taking the Lead Media podcast. Thanks for listening.